there is some rain making gentle contact with my windshield. So enjoy this ASMR experience, if you can hear it, that is. Enjoy this ASMR experience while I dive into battling loneliness after an abusive relationship. It's fascinating because throughout my entire life, it's really challenging for me to kind of admit this. It's not fun, of course, it really isn't. But a majority of my relationships have been abusive. Um, Not just, romantic, but also friendship, right? It hasn't really been until about 5 years ago that I've really started to cultivate healthier relationships. And it's really wonderful to have that finally taking place. Um, yeah, let's talk about battling loneliness after an abusive relationship. But let's also talk about the pattern of consistently attracting and being attracted to people that are abusive, whether physically, whether verbally, whether, psychologically, emotionally, whatever the fuck, right? Whatever the fuck it is. Abuse is abuse. It's unacceptable. Um, I think that there have been some times, admittedly so on my end, where I may have been somewhat abusive as an individual, whether it's like enabling abuse. I would consider that abusive. I would consider the act of enabling abusive behavior as abusive, right? Because you're basically enabling somebody to treat you like a piece of shit. Um, yeah, I have been in multiple relationships throughout my life, both with friends and with romantic partners that have been abusive. Um, I'm going to introduce masochism in here, right? Deriving pleasure from pain. Um, we often see this more so in terms of like physical contact and sex and stuff, right? Masochistic dynamics and everything. But I'm really talking about a dynamic where a person learns that they deserve to be hurt, right? So, if somebody calls you a piece of shit, you actually have a belief that you deserve to be treated that way, and therefore you might actually be attracted to that, and therefore you might actually stay with somebody who, treats you that way, unfortunately. Um, if you are somebody that is used to being abused, and you've kind of identified that as normal in relationships, and you've also learned to believe that you don't deserve anything better than that, and anything better than that that does come along, you just run in the fucking opposite direction, right? Because it's like, why are you being nice to me? I'm a piece of shit. I deserve to be treated like shit. Please get away from me. I don't deserve this. I deserve a lot worse. It's kind of weird when you say it to yourself, right? But then at the same time, it's like that's where you find yourself. It is lonely to get out of a relationship. It's going to sound strange, of course. It is lonely to get out of a relationship that was abusive, especially when the abuse hits the nail right on the fucking head of comfort and familiarity of this is home. This is all I've ever known. This is all I've ever felt. This is all I've ever seen. And it can be challenging. It can really be challenging, right? Maybe you have all these ideas flooding through your mind of, oh, the person didn't really mean it, they'll come back around, this, that, and the other. I'll forgive them. I already do forgive them, this, that, and the other. I'm honestly going to call it for what it is. I've been through plenty of it in my fucking life. It's just not simply fucking acceptable. To be treated like shit by somebody, it's not acceptable to be abused. Um, to be in a place where you find yourself lonely and you'd probably, or at least a part of you would probably rather put yourself back in the dynamic with the person that was abusive, because again, that's just home for you, right? You've identified abuse as home. I didn't actually hurt myself. It's hard to like not put yourself back in that, right? And the readiness that you have to get right back in that can also be very present and persistent, and it can pose a challenge of you doing better for yourself, right? Um, So let's dive even further into a dynamic of battling loneliness after abuse in a relationship. What usually ends up happening is that you didn't find yourself in that relationship for no fucking reason, right? It probably didn't start off abusive. If it did, there's probably a chance you wouldn't have entered it. It's like the same metaphor as the frog that jumps into the lukewarm water that ends up boiling to death, right? Would you enter a situation with somebody, regardless of how physically attractive they are, where they are, verbally abusing you, where they're calling you a piece of shit, a loser, fucking dumb, idiot, stupid, this, that, and the other? Probably fucking not, right? But the reality is, there's a good chance that you're repeating a pattern, and a majority of your relationships, like mine, have been very similar to that throughout your entire life, right? So you're basically just repeating a pattern, right? So in that time of loneliness, it's a really good idea to just be by your fucking self and embrace being alone. It's going to be lonely because you're probably going to be looking for the people that match the same energy as the person that was abusing you, right? Again, repetition compulsion. You're just repeating a pattern. Yes, I will be your emotional punching bag as long as you love me. Newsflash, no, don't be their emotional punching bag. That's number one. Two, that's not fucking love. At least it's not healthy love. If anything, it's masochistic love. Masochistic love is a real thing. Masochistic love is, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. That's what masochistic love is, right? When love is blended with pain and abuse, right? So the battling of the loneliness, let's actually, if you're strong enough, and I'm not here to challenge anybody, I'm really not. I'm not here to, be like, go big or go home, like this, that, and the other. It's not black or white thinking. I'm genuinely not here to challenge you. I'm not. I would say that in terms of loneliness, it's actually beneficial to lean in to it. Loneliness is a communication, right? It's trying to communicate something to you, right? And probably within that loneliness are a bunch of demons that are keeping you. And when I say demons, I don't mean like literal demons. I don't mean that there's a fucking possession inside of you. Let's get that real fucking clear. This is not any talk of evil or demonic possession. What I mean is that there's probably a lot of fucking pain inside of you with a lot of different voices from a lot of different people that need to be released. Right? It's important, if you can, in a time of battling loneliness, to really just lean into the fucking feelings of loneliness and understand them, right? Because they're there for a reason, right? Maybe you feel lonely because you want to feel connected, right? Maybe you feel like you want to feel connected to other people, right? The best way to feel connected to other people is to first feel connected to yourself. Because you're not really going to feel totally connected to other people if you're not connected to yourself. Because if you're not connected to yourself, you don't really know what it is exactly that you need from yourself. And if you don't know exactly what it is that you need from yourself, you're definitely not going to know exactly what it is that you need from other people, right? So allow yourself to lean into that loneliness and connect with it, because it's a communication that's trying to communicate something to you. If you have tolerated abuse in relationships throughout your life, like that has been a noticeable theme, a noticeable pattern that has been repeated in your life, there's probably a reason that you've done that, right? And I would say that it's beneficial to just lean into the loneliness and allow it to communicate itself fully to you to help you understand what it is that's there, what it is that you need to work through, right? Because I've been through years of abuse in relationships, in different relationships, right? With the belief that I can change another person, of course, and with the belief that it would get better. Did it ever get better? No. Is it likely to ever get better? No. Was I hopeful? Yes. Was I also being naive? Yes. Was I probably lying to myself? Yes. The likelihood that a person that is abusive is going to change, I'm just going to be real about it based on what I've learned in a professional setting, is fucking slim to none. As it stands, changing is a very challenging endeavor. It really is. Somebody who's really fucked up, it's not likely that they're going to change, and if they are going to change, it's going to take a long fucking time for them to change. So, don't worry about that. Fuck them. That's what it is. What can you do for yourself? Listen to yourself. Listen to the feelings of loneliness. Listen to the pain. Listen to what it is that's trying to communicate to you. Don't drown it out with other things. Go fucking headfirst into the abyss. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's mucky. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's, potentially identity crisis inducing. You might discover some serious fucking shit that you didn't previously know about yourself. And it's important to do that. It's important for everyone to do that. So if you can, do it. However much you can, right? And it really just comes down to that.